Hi, Karen with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a scrapbook layout for Kitaholic's kits using the February kit. So seeing this is the first layout of the month from me, I thought I'd give a quick little rundown of what you get in the kit. And this kit this month is chock full of fantastic products and from lots of different collections. So Steph's done a great job curating this one this month. You get a really different vibe around the different collections and they all work perfectly together. So the mixed media kit is some stencils from Vicky Bouton and also some Nouveau Mousse Shimmer mousse. And we also have some ephemera from Simple Stories, the sticker book from Maggie Holmes. I'm pretty sure that's from Marketplace. Now, I'm not going to lie, that sticker book is a little bit tricky for me. I do use it though this month, and it is used throughout my layouts. But it does have things that I'm not really into. So it has things like some horses and pigs and things like that. So I'm really not quite sure what I'm going to do with those. But there's some great florals and some really lovely little leaf pieces and things like that, and some lovely sayings. So overall, it's a really good little collection. We get some Vicky Bouton chipboard stickers as well, and a great font alphabet thickers, which is a lovely cursive font, which I really enjoyed playing with as well this month. So the papers are a mixture of Maggie Holmes and some Jen Hadfield as well. And I'm leaving on the left-hand side sort of my favourite sides of those papers. I love that blue. That will come as no surprise to anybody who's been following me. I love the richness of those blue tones as well on my layouts. But there's some really interesting patterns this month, so I'm taking advantage of that. For you'll see in a moment for this particular layout. My favourite patterned paper of this whole collection is one from Maggie Holmes, and it has the really big grey flowers all over it. So that does feature quite heavily in this layout that you're about to see me pull together. So fantastic collection this month. I hope anyone who's subscribed is enjoying it so far, and if you haven't, I will also leave some links in the description box below of where you can purchase and have a little go. So like I was saying, that paper there is my most favorite paper of the collection this month. I normally always start my layouts each month with probably my most favourite, because it really gives me an opportunity to get to know what's in the collection, and I'm working on something that really has inspired me from the get-go. So yeah, I've gotten a little bit mixed media crazy on this one as well. So I have pre-gesso. You would have seen me there just gessoing my white cardstock with some clear gesso, and I am using the Fenerbahce clear gesso, which I believe is also available in store. I highly recommend that gesso. It gives a really smooth effect even over any cardstock, whether it's smooth cardstock or your textured cardstock, and dries beautifully. It is definitely my favourite. So I'm gonna, while that gesso is drying, I'm having a little bit of a play here on what I wanted to do with this layout, and I'm focusing in on thinking about how I'm going to embellish. I'm going to create a layout that is a vertical in design. So I have torn those strips of patterned paper and just allowed the paper with the darker background with a little bit of purple flowers, just giving that a little bit of tuck around each side of those. And I've torn the edges quite heavily, and I'm distressing them as I go as well. I continue to play on that layout during the layout with my fingers and really make it sit up. So I've just fussy cut out some of those flowers from one of the pattern papers as well. I'm thinking I want to make this up because I know that pattern paper is quite busy. I am going to try to tone down my embellishing. And we'll see how successful I am. I tend to overdo things sometimes. But I'm really looking at here as to how this is going to sit on the page. I've chosen my photo, which is a photo of myself and my sister. This was taken on my 40th birthday, which was, oh my goodness, 10 years ago. I will be celebrating my 50th birthday in a couple of months. So I can't believe I'm still scrapping these photos. considering I'll be having a big bash for my 50th, I'll have another range of photos to also do. But I really love these photos, so I scrap them quite regularly anyway. And I've never really finished my 40th birthday album. I'm not a huge album creator. Okay, so getting on to what I'm doing here. So I put a little few pencil marks around where where my paper was going to land in the I've gone in the middle of the page, so a little slightly to the left, and I'm just grabbed out my watercolors, which was from a kit last year, I think, and just using some grey here and some black just to give it some tone around the areas. And I've watered it down quite a lot. I'm spraying quite a little bit of water onto the page because at this stage I'm thinking I just want a subtle little bit of mixed media, just a little bit of paint. And I'm also going to come in and use the mousse as well. I'm just adding in some water, mixing it with the grey and also mixing it with a little bit of the black as well. Bringing the pieces of paper back in just to make sure that I'm getting that right angle of where I see in my mind where I'm going to put the embellishments. And I'm mainly going to put the embellishments more on that right hand side, which is why I'm creating the black more over to the right than the left. And then once I do start looking through this, I start sticking down the patterned paper. And I do walk away from this for a little while because I really wasn't sure. I don't use full-on black and grey very often. So I was starting to think it was looking a little bit too, I'm not sure dreary would be the right word, but I just wasn't quite convinced. But I wanted to keep going and keep seeing what I could create with it. So then I get the mousse and I just use a spatula and I just literally scrape that around and down the vertical line of the patterned paper. And it gives the most gorgeous little bit of shimmer to the page. One little hint though, it will act as a bit of a glue. So you can see here I'm going over the patterned paper. Because I wanted the patterned paper to sit up, it did dry and it was quite flat, so I did have to use my fingers and use a little bit of tools to sit that patterned paper back up so I still had that dimension on the page. And after that dried, I was, no, it's not enough, I need some color, I can't do all this black so I continued on and added some black splatters, and then I also add some white splatters. Now, adding the white splatters did make a really big difference. You'll see that in a moment. And it gave the layout just a little bit of a lift. I love using white acrylic paint for that. It really gives a really lovely lift to the page. And this is where I started thinking I needed some more colour. So I've added in and used some of the purple from the watercolour palette as well. And the white spray I'm using there is the White Dinner Gloss spray that you can also get in store, I believe. If not, you can always talk to Steph and she will gladly get that sort of thing in for you. I love this spray. I either use this or a tube of acrylic paint, and I find this one often dries a little bit quicker, so I went with this one this time. So you can see there it does give a little bit of a lift to the page, but I allowed that to dry naturally. A big hint for using the gloss sprays is where you can, if you have time, get that to actually dry naturally. Because it's an acrylic paint, if you use your heat gun on it, it can buckle and can bubble up. So if you want a clean looking piece, I would recommend that you do dry that naturally. So while it was drying naturally, I kept coming back to it every once in a while thinking it's not quite right. So I do come in off screen. You'll see here, I do come in off screen and I have added some more purple to the page. Now I did make a little bit of mistake here and I did nearly throw this in the bin. But I decided to persevere and see what I could make out of it and whether I could resurrect it. When I was putting in the added purple, included some grey, and it started turning the colours pink on the page. And I wasn't going for pink at all in any way. I wanted that purple to be the main focus. But I thought, no, let's keep going. Let's see what happens with it. So I added more purple to the page, and I also added a heap more white spots, white splatters, and I felt that that really toned down some of the pink. And while I was matting the photo with that patterned paper, I noticed that there was these little lovely little tiny pink flowers. So I decided to fussy cut those out, thinking that maybe I can add those to the page, which will then draw in that pink, because I didn't want the pink to be on its own. I'm hoping that makes sense. I wanted it to be purely, all the colours needed to be appearing in one way or another. I also fussy cut out from the patterned paper, the main patterned paper there, some of the leaves. I thought they were gorgeous leaves. And so I cut those out and just added those onto the layout. Just as a little bit of a help with the clustering. And you'll see there that also too, it has started covering up some of that pink as well. It looks on film and on screen, it looks a bit like it's quite fluorescent, but in real life it isn't fluorescent pink. But I do tone it, I still do continue to tone that down by adding white splatters and black splatters at the end as well. So just to do some of the ephemera, and sitting there thinking, how am I going to, now that I've created this weird strange looking mixed media, how was I going to embellish it? I knew I was going to cover up some of it, but I still wanted to see quite a lot of that. And it was very, very busy, so I didn't want to make the ephemera really, really busy on the page. I haven't talked about the flowers. So I fussy cut those flowers out from one of the pattern papers, and I painted that with some of the paint, just the watercolor as well, because it was, the tone just wasn't quite right, and I thought that that would be a really nice way to blend those in with the purple background that I've created. And then I also added in a beautiful title piece. Now, because I'd added that pink, that beautiful piece has a couple of other colors, so just the blue and the yellow, but I chose to ignore that. And it does have a slightly bit of a pink, so that's where the pink tied back in. I just really loved the look of that title, so I'm just going to put up with the fact that there's 2 extra colors that I didn't put anywhere else on the layout, and I'm going to live with it. I added that camera piece. I was looking for pieces that were black, just to tone back to the black component, and I found some black sequins in my stash, so I've just added those to the insides of the leaves, of the flowers, and added some of the title pieces from the Vicky Bouton chipboard as well. And that pretty much ends my layout. I have a fiddle around to see whether I needed to put anything on top of those little pink flowers, so they found a nice little spot on the layout as well. And I fiddle around just a little bit more to see if there was anything else. So I've auditioned a few other pieces. I added some of the clear stickers from the sticker book on the right hand side above the camera there, some of the flowers and some leaves. And I also added some of them on the left hand side above that purple flower as well, just as an added little dimension to the page. I did pop the title up on foam as well, because I don't think I mentioned it. I did pop my photo up on foam as well, so it needed to sit right up against that, so I did add that with some foam. The finishing touches, I've put some more black splatters. This time for the splatters, instead of using the watercolor, I went with my black gesso, just watered down a little bit. I find that stays really true black. The black splatters from the watercolors were sort of soaking in and looking a little grey. So I wanted really clear black splatters for the final flourish. And I also do a final flourish of white splatters as well. So as I said, it's a little bit different. Very, very messy background, but I really, really like how this turned out, and I think I turned it around from first starting to think I wasn't going to keep this layout and I was going to start from scratch again. I'm really happy that I kept going with it. To finish off, I've inked the edges with some black ink from my stash just to round that off and just to give it that completed look as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great time playing with your kits. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I've got some close-ups for you, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for popping by. I would love it if you liked and subscribed if you're not already a subscriber. Thanks so much for joining. Bye for now.